when I thought I couldn't find my way out. Yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, way out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better. Just know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. That's right. Only you can make the change. Shine your head at you. Shine so bright from darkness to light. Hey, hey, hey. From darkness to light. Yeah. And you'll find your way out. Yeah, yeah. Oh, it won't seem way out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The power of God will flow through you from way out.
Welcome. This is Alchemizing Energy. I'm here today. Normally I have my camera off because, I'm chilling in the house, but I've been running around. And I said, you know what? I have to try to get something up on here because, man, this Epstein file stuff is just lighting up, you guys. It is lighting up. There's a lot of things coming up about like this kind of ritual things going on and all type of stuff. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to get right to it because I have like some things to do and, I don't have, that much time. So this is going to have to be really quick. I'm going to come back later on and we could do an open panel discussing it, but we're kind of like I'm kind of at a shortage for time. So this is going to be a real quick, probably like an hour long, maybe at the most. And then we're going to come back and actually discuss and have an open panel to discuss the things that we're and actually go even deeper and bring some more information, some more content. Some of the things I've been really, checking all this stuff out, and it gets really, really crazy. So without further ado, let's go into the first video that I found, and I thought it was really interesting. Check this. So Bill Gates' wife, Melinda, at the time, was discussing Jeffrey Epstein before and was saying that she did not like Bill Clinton. I mean, not Bill. I'm sorry. What's the dude's name from Microsoft? God, my brain is. I've been running around. What? Bill Gates. Bill Gates. She did not like Bill Gates getting involved with Jeffrey Epstein, and she talks about that right here. Where she talks about, hey, she thought that he was weird, and all types of stuff, and she really did not approve of their relationship. But she kind of knows what to talk about and what not to talk about. Let's go.
Kind of contact with Jeffrey Epstein, and that you were not, that was very upsetting to you. Did that play a role in the divorce at all in this process?
Yeah, as I said, it's not one thing. It was many things that I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you made that clear to him.
I made that clear to him. I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time.
Did you?
Yes, because I wanted to see who this man was. And I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards. So, my heart breaks for these young women because that's how I felt. And here I'm an older woman. My God, I feel terrible for those young women. It's awful.
You felt that the moment you walked in. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
She felt like he was evil personified, y'all. So how does a person, like, you meet him and they just look, what did he say to her? I mean, was his vibe just, everybody kind of says that he had this vibe. Even the guy that was interviewing him at one point. The guy, I was watching the Jeffrey Epstein interview, and the dude was asking Jeffrey Epstein, are you the devil himself? And at first he began to answer the question. I think he called himself. He said, oh, no, what do you mean by that? But see, here's the thing is that, people are all talking about how his aura was off, and it was a very weird aura. Everybody that talks about meeting him said that he kind of gave off this creepy vibe and a real negative aura. And then come to find out this whole thing like that, that when it really gets down into it, a lot of these people are worshiping Baal. They're worshiping some god, some Phoenician god called Baal. And if you go into Revelations and stuff like that, they talk about this Baal kind of character. And so they had like this whole thing. All this stuff is really based on the ritual, satanic ritual, and the Baal and all kind of stuff. Very, very, very interesting. I'm not sure if it even goes into that Kabbalah teachings. I have to look into that if the Kabbalah is involved with it, because that Kabbalah I think has to do something to do with that kind of thing. But you know, a lot of the stuff dealing with the children and all this stuff and siphoning energy and all these things goes deeper into some kind of a ritualized weird thing that they have going on. And then come to find out, I found out that the state, that's the IHOP state, they call it IHOP, that there's a certain protection for certain people. There's a protection. So let's go into it. Let's continue. Let's go.
And you shared that with Bill, and he still continued to spend time with him?
Any of the questions remaining about what Bill's relationship there was, those are for Bill to answer.
Okay.
So if Melinda Gates said that when she first met Jeffrey Epstein, she thought that he was evil personified, that is a strong statement. And if she got that feeling, if she felt that way, why didn't anybody else get that feeling? We talk about evil personified, and I want to take you to something that was said a long time ago. And that was from someone who was in Hollywood, who warned people what was going on long ago. And that is Corey Feldman. Now, Corey Feldman, you know, is interesting. He made this connection with Hollywood, but he never made that connection all the way back to Israel, which is really interesting to me. From what I understand, he's pro-Israel. So he started to make the connection, but he didn't make it fully. But he tried to tell people, listen to what Corey Feldman said. Even as he got older, he stood by what he said they were doing to these children. Listen.
You believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I've told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993, when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
You said, by the way, did not abuse you.
Who Michael was innocent.
You said you've had death threats.
Yes.
Because you have this information.
Yes.
And have threatened to expose it. Another reason, I think, to go to police, that's a crime, to threaten someo's life.
I've gone to the police with that as well.
And what would be wrong with going to the police now again? Didn't work out in Santa
There's a
Barbara.
statute of limitations, Matt, in the state of California, which protects people. It's not that way in New York. It's that way only where the movie industry is, conveniently enough, in California. That's the seriousness of this. You cannot, because if I were to go to the police, I would be the one who's getting sued.
Corey Feldman talked about this a long time ago. He was pretty much blackballed for coming forward about it. He had a friend who was also named Corey. They were known as the two Coreys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. Corey Haim, unfortunately, passed away a couple of years ago. Corey Haim, he turned to drugs to deal with the abuse. Both of them said that they were sexually abused in Hollywood when they were kids. So people have been saying this for years. I show you this to let you know this did not start with Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, Jeffrey Epstein is probably one of the more popular people that you know about it, but it didn't start from him. But Epstein's niece, she says something here about how a lot of this was not just diabolical, but also satanic. Listen to this.
The cult of Baal, B-A-L. My family masqueraded themselves as Jewish publicly, but behind closed doors, you know, at Passover dinners, when I was drugged, would admit, we are Satanists. They told me that we belonged to the cult of Baal, B-A-apostrophe-A-L. They told me this with consistency while I was being abused. Now, what you can look up about the cult of Baal, information that is publicly available, is that it is thousands of years old. It is a Phoenician satanic fertility cult. And publicly, it's supposed to have been eradicated. But to my knowledge and my experience, it is not.
Yeah. But see, when people talk about these things, you're called a nut job, you're called crazy, and all these types of things. So we're not just talking about people who were trafficking underage people. We're talking about an entire, you know what I mean? This is an entire network of things.
And it looks like it's in the family.
That's a satanic cult. And yes, satanic cults have rituals that they perform. And I look back sometimes and I think if people would have listened to Corey Feldman, if they were listening to some of the people who did come forward at that point in time, a lot of abuse could have been prevented. But the way that I kind of see it, a lot of those people were complicit. They were a part of the problem. You can't.
And there were a few people that passed on that was really pushing. It was called Pizzagate or something. They were talking about, it got really interesting but the guy who was pushing that Pizzagate thing, he was saying that he was in hotel rooms. Nobody believed him. I forget what his name is, and he ended up passing away. And I think that they say he committed suicide or something like that.
Tell me some of those producers and directors and studio owners didn't know these things were going on. There was also a CIA whistleblower who also came forward. His name was Robert Steele. He is long gone with us now. He also talked about these trafficking issues long time ago. Listen to this.
This is bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse. It's also child torture. Because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of this.
And see, here's the thing, guys, is that I just did a whole show about China and how that they are having, it's called piglet babies. See, in China, this is what the thing is. The government does this in China. Okay? They do this in China, and they have it right out there. They have names for this stuff. They know exactly what's going on. The people are aware of it. But here it's done at an island. You know what I'm saying? Politicians fly in from everywhere and do this weird ish, So what's crazy, and then I don't know, it probably even gets even more creepy as the whole thing gets unraveled, the things that they're really doing.
Satanic world. It's also the use of children for harvesting body organs. And then you have ritual ceremonies and ritual murder, as well as incidental murder. Most organizations that end up being used to prey on children, Oxfam is a recent example, all of the United Nations organizations, the Boy Scouts of America, all of the child services agencies across the United States of America, they did not start out as organizations to prey on children, but they attract and ultimately end up rising in the ranks and controlling those organizations, so that an organization that initially started out in the service of children becomes an organization that is in fact hunting children
and exploiting children. Why do you think there's all these abuse cases that came from Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts? I think now it's just Scouts. Why do you think you hear about the abuse cases that come from those organizations? Someone at some point should look into foster families, the whole foster care system.
We already know the foster care system. That's what we talked about, the orphan train and how they were getting sent all over America and turned into slaves. See, all this stuff, I've been talking about this stuff, and people didn't want to hear it. People didn't want to listen to me. They wanted to make it about Black Americans being Indian and this, that. I'm like, no, I'm talking about what these folks is doing and how their history is and what they have been doing for a very long time. See, I think that in certain European, like their culture, a 6-year-old, can go and work, and can be let out the house and just roam the streets. There's certain cultures like that. Hey, 6, go and get it how you live. And that's what happened during that whole Ellis Island situation. You had a bunch of kids running around the island, wreaking havoc, teenagers and stuff like this. So I think that there's like a whole like generation of people like that look at kids like they're just a part of, or not even a generation of people, like certain cultures of people that they don't look at kids like the same way we look at children. And even though we have laws and stuff against us, that's why he had to have an island where they could do all this wild stuff. Let's go.
There's a lot of abuse issues that come from that. And it's interesting when he mentioned the whole ritual part and he talked about drinking like the blood and stuff like that. You know who said publicly that they do the drinking of the blood? Actress Megan Fox. Actress Megan Fox is on video, on interviews talking about this, where her and I guess this is when she's with Machine Gun Kelly or whatever, they do this ritual where they do drink each other's blood or whatever. It's just weird. And she was always kind of cuckoo anyway.
And they
but
eating.
I mean, this information is not hidden. It's just that when people talk about it, then you're called crazy, nutso, and all that type of stuff. This guy died. He was looking into a lot of this stuff. He focused on trafficking of children and abuses and all those types of things.
This is the thing that gets weird. So, okay, when you know that in China, this stuff is out in the open. Right now, it's a big blow up on this side of town. But over there in China, this is every day, normal. Hey, ambulance come pick bodies up all the time and traffic the organs. They got this thing called piglet babies where people actually go into a place and get paid a certain amount to get in vitro fertilized and have like multiple children. The children don't have any birth certificates or nothing like this, like he just talked about. And then they are used only for organs, and they take those baby organs and they give them to people that are in their 90s or whatever that need an extra organ, and they are able to somehow fuse the organ, and that organ grows really quickly. And that person then can has that new kidney of a baby or a young child, and they are able to just be able to continue living with a new kidney, And this is a common state in China and places like in China, But here, like I said, this guy he had a private island where he was doing this, and he was extorting all these politicians that are into this weird stuff. Who knows if he also had a hospital out there where people were getting transplants, and who knows what they were doing. Doing the stuff that they're doing already in China right there on this island. I wouldn't be surprised if a person, hey, look, they pay him a certain amount of money, and then they hey, ship this thing in, bring in some doctors. Next thing you know, person leave there with a whole new kidney. All type of stuff. This is the thing. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes out next when you start hearing that there's medical doctors and operations happening on this island. They haven't said it yet, but I think that's what's going to come up next.
Show you how bad these files have been. Since I said this is now part 4 for the Epstein files, they're already removing information. I guess it's a good thing we made those videos. Right now, as you'll see, over 460 Epstein files on Trump are removed. Yes, that one too. On January 30th, and this guy's been on it. On January 30th, there were 5,361 files when you search for Trump. Today, February 2nd, 4,896 files remain. The infamous file on Trump that is in the video below has been removed. I want to show you guys. Remember this file here, the one that was in the first Epstein file video I covered this past week. It was all highlighted yellow. A lot of that was about Donald Trump. Okay, watch this. Wait for it. Now he takes that file number, you put it in there. Data set, page not found. It's gone. So that big document, that big drop there of Donald Trump is now gone from the DOJ's files. So again, covering and protecting Donald Trump. We have another piece of information that dropped in the Epstein files. This one is wild since we were talking about the sacrificing of people and all that types of stuff. Check this one out. Shout out to James Lee for this one. The sender of this email giving Jeffrey Epstein permission to kill him. It appears to be Susan Hamblin, a financial advisor and founder of the adoption agency Kids to Families. So you can see it here because sometimes these redactions are not perfect, you guys. And if you look close enough, you can still see the name. And it's sent to Jeffrey Epstein. This was 2014. No one will lie to you and get away with it from me. No one. Whoops is correct. And that is in response to the whoops here from Jeffrey Epstein. And that's in response to this message here. I give you permission to kill him. He is apparently with Olga. He lied to you and he lied to me. So we have someone who is the founder of an adoption agency, Kids to Families, who's on an email giving Jeffrey Epstein permission to off someone. People need to look into these adoption agencies too, to see what's really going on. But people think you're crazy when you talk about this. We have argued before on the show whether or not Jeffrey Epstein is even still alive. I mean, none of us believe that he offed himself. And now there's information that apparently says Jeffrey Epstein left his cell the night before, also in the Epstein files. Shout out to Heather C. Epstein files. This is huge. The individuals who anonymously posted on 4chan the morning of Epstein's death, August 10, 2019, claiming he witnessed weird happenings at the prison before Epstein's death had been identified in the Epstein files. Roberto Grijalva, an officer at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, has been identified as an anonymous prison employee who posted on 4chan claiming Epstein left his cell Friday evening, shackled in a medical wheelchair, while at the same time, an unauthorized trip van arrived at the prison, which he believes took Epstein away the night before the news broke of his death. Thank you, Louisiana. Grijalva, thank you. I knew somebody would help me there. The day after Epstein's death, U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman of the SDNY opened a grand jury proceeding and subpoenaed 4chan, Apple, AT&T, and Citibank for their records, aiming to uncover Grijalva's identity following the anonymous 4chan post. His name is not redacted on his bank records included in the SDNY subpoena response from Citibank for his 4chan post, and ties to the same prison officer, Roberto Grijalva, whose statements were released as part of the prison investigation into Epstein's death. This is huge. We now have validation. The 4chan post from August 10th, 2019 is a legitimate eyewitness account from an MCC prison officer that Epstein may have been switched out before the news broke of his alleged untimely offing.
This is crazy, guys. Like this whole thing, listen, I'm going through this really quick because I have things I got to take care of. I'm going to be back here at 8. But I wanted to get a little bit of this other stuff in where we're talking about JD Vance panicking because they connect him involved with this whole thing. Well,
single one of them protects child rapists. One in particular that I want to focus on right now is Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi declares that she is a warrior for justice. She wears her Christian cross all the time. And this that I'm about to show you is in the Epstein files, and she protects the sender of this email. Pop this up. To Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted. Thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. So why is Pam Bondi and Trump's DOJ redacting this child rapist name from the files? Why is everybody providing cover when a lot of the victims' names, survivors' names were not redacted? But that to me just shows you how flagrant it is. And child predators are very flagrant about it. They're very flagrant about the social things that they do regarding sex. And this is so brazen. This is after it's already been revealed that this man is a predator, and they all go down. You have to ask yourself, why? Why did he do it? Why wasn't he scared? Why wasn't he scared of getting rearrested? Why did he seem to accelerate, not deaccelerate? Why didn't he say, hey, no emails, no record of any of this stuff? He's responding to all of this stuff because he has blackmail footage on people in our government and very wealthy people, and he worked for very bad people.
And also the whole thing is like to have those things is also is also the current reason why this whole operation in government is going the way it's going. And if you actually the further they're going to get into it, it's going to blow your mind. What you really find out what his thoughts were about like society. He wanted things to be tribal. He wanted to get away from the global thing. He's trying to break down the whole American government. It gets very strange.
Vladimir Putin and the government of Israel.
You know, here's the thing, and it is so important to remember that this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, he was hanging out with Trump, communicating with Trump, alleged to have been at the White House for 2017 Thanksgiving. And then Trump says, I don't know him. I don't know anything about it. Just all that bullshit. But the reality is these people not only Did they think Jeffrey Epstein was powerful and cool? And, you hear some people say that, well, I was only around him because I wanted to be close to power. Well, that tells me everything I need to know about you. But in that email, your littlest girl was naughty. And they were knee slapping. When he wrote it, he had a smile from ear to ear. Where's the prosecution of this person? Where's the investigation into this person? The deposition at the very least. You don't have it. You didn't have it under Biden. You don't have it under Trump. And that tells me these elites and these oligarchs, and Jeffrey Epstein was number one, because I think you are spot fucking on. The reason he didn't stop is because he thought he was completely never going to be punished. Because just look, when he was arrested in 2000, I think it was 7, the plea was in 2008, his home, he knew before it was raided because they went in and took all the video equipment and all the videos and files that he had in that home. It was taken before the FBI got there. He got a day pass jail sentence. He got a day pass to go anywhere he wanted, and then he slept in the jail at night. It's bullshit. Right. And there's no other reason he would not have tried to stop. He thought he would get away with it forever because so many people in powerful positions were mired in the whole deal.
Yeah. And when Alex Costa gave him that sweetheart deal, because the case was strong, all of the evidence was really, really strong. And it was really puzzling as to why he got this kind of deal. And it's because he has blackmail footage on very, very powerful people. And this was such a culture of rape. This is such a rape culture that you saw Howard Lutnick's wife, after it's been revealed, when Pump said 2008, when he pleaded guilty to child rape, or charges similar to that. Howard Lutnick's wife emails him, we're on a yacht. We want to stop by your island. We are a party of 2 families. We have a few boys and a few girls. Why the details of the kids? Why that they are young? Why the gender? Because everybody knew that this was his kink. And so there's a woman named Ava Debon who's now married to a hedge fund manager. And she sends Jeffrey Epstein the following email after 2008, after everybody in the world, especially people in these elite New York, Palm Beach circles, the 0.01%, the 1%, they all knew. Think about your personal lives. If somebody gets charged with child rape, it's going to be the buzz of the town. When these elite circles, it was the buzz of the town. This woman, Ava Dubin, sends him the following email. Put this up. She says, come and visit next week. Selena will have 5 friends over. Selena was this woman's teenage daughter. And so there is just such a culture here of how accepted this is with collaborators and enablers to this. And I've never been one that is just super impressed by wealth, but I've seen it. I have seen people fall over themselves and take advantage of and want to curry favor with the wealthy people in their lives. And I have seen wealthy people get away with behaviors that normal, non-millionaire, billionaire people would get away with. I've seen it a bunch. I have seen this. I have seen women not protect their children from people that they know their children shouldn't be around. And this is about the most disgusting thing, combined with Howard Lutnick's and how many other pedophile collaborators are out there.
I look at this and I think, if you were sending an email to a former love interest and you asked them to come over, would you ever say that your kid was having 5 friends over? She knew, she was luring him with the prospect of 5 friends. That's fucking insane. I could not believe my eyes. I would not email someone and say, hey, do you want to come over? My teenage daughter's going to have 5 friends over, unless I was trying to curry favor with them. And that is fucking gross. That is appalling and vile and craven on a level that is just, wow. Like, it's weird that people do this.
All right, moving along. Epstein is in this email with Peter Thiel. This is where it really gets the child pedophilia and the child rape and the cameras. And then the elites being in this, where they start to combine and you start to realize the purpose of the child rape is, number one, because Jeffrey Epstein is a sick fuck and he's just the diabolical person to do it, but is to get blackmail footage on powerful people. So to tear down the systems of government that be, because these people are too unlikable to run on their own merit, to go put their name on a ballot and go win an election. And so they're just saying the quiet part out loud, openly rooting for the demise of America. This is an email from Epstein to Peter Thiel. And he says, return to tribalism, counter to globalization, amazing new alliances. You and I both.
Do you hear this? You guys? So this whole Jeffrey Epstein situation is not just only about him gathering people together to party. The whole thing was meant to extort people towards his whole goal of whoever hired him, whole goal to crash the entire like American government, and also to also get all these global leaders involved, and then to be able to extort them into doing things the way they want to, which I believe is about taking down the whole system, and then placing whatever their powerful elite group of people that they want. And see, I had a show. See, Bobby Yashabaya talked about this, and he talked about the whole, I'm gonna say, lionists, the lions, group, and how they wanted to make things a certain way. So let's go.
They're just saying the quiet part out loud, openly rooting for the demise of America. This is an email from Epstein to Peter Thiel. And he says, return to tribalism, counter to globalization, amazing new alliances. You and I both agreed zero interest rates were too high. And as I said in your office, finding things on their way to collapse was much easier than finding the next bargain. And then Peter Thiel responds, of what? And then Jeffrey responds, Brexit. Just the beginning. And we've covered this. I covered this a few episodes ago. Brexit has been an absolute disaster for the UK. It's been an economic disaster. But what's important right here is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is an immigrant in the United States of America, an immigrant that has massive government contracts. There's a very high likely that right now our cell phones and our conversations are being mined in Palantir's surveillance stuff. And he wants a mass surveillance country. He bought and paid for the biggest prostitute in the United States of America, J.D. Vance. And he has installed J.D. Vance to be the heir apparent of this because Peter Thiel, nobody likes him. Nobody likes him. And he knows he can't win. He decided, I'm rich. I'm smarter than everybody. I don't want there to be a democracy anymore. So he's cheating to eliminate democracy. And again, there are fascist collaborators all around this administration. You have all of the Republicans standing behind Trump constantly. You have all of these oligarchs are fascist collaborators because they like this rigging of the system on their behalf.
You know, here's the thing about.
Let me also explain this. Let me tell you something that I'm not sure if you guys are not aware of this. Honey, I'm not here to be liked. Somebody says nobody likes you. Nobody likes you either. Who are you? I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to tell the information. So anyways, you know what's so crazy is that, you have this whole so at the same time you have TikTok. This is what I'm not sure people even talking about. You have TikTok wanting, getting bought out by Israeli company. And around June 2025, Netanyahu infused $45 million contract, roughly 150 million shekels, initiated in June 2025 with Google and YouTube. This initiative was described as the Hasbara, public diplomacy propaganda aimed to promote government messages, including campaigns that contested reports of famine in Gaza. So that was the first influx of money that went towards the Google algorithm. But you're going to also find it later on. There was a most recent one that actually happened where there was more money that was given. I think like 30 days ago, there was another 30 days ago that was given another. He was given another. Here, a joint Google and Amazon signed a joint contract worth $1.2 billion with the Israel government. So, a lot of this stuff is about to start getting, smushed. A lot of these conversations, you're going to start seeing that it's going to be harder and harder to find them. Why? Because this kind of implicates a lot of stuff when it comes down to the Israeli government. And people do not. And when you have a platform that's in bed with them, they're going to be able to control and censor what people are saying about their thing. With this whole Epstein situation, you're going to see more and more of this stuff starts getting muted out.
Peter Thiel. He runs around and gives lectures on the Antichrist when he is emailing and in cahoots with the biggest sex ring, the head of the biggest sex ring that we've ever known in the United States and maybe globally. And anyway, he can't make that connection. I mean, like, he's worried about something that's not going to happen, and he's allowing all this shit in his life that is happening. That grosses me out. But here's the thing. I mean, in the beginning, you were saying Trump's going to do this, this, this. And I was like, no, because I thought he was so incompetent, not realizing the powers that surrounding him have been planning the demise of the United States for years. And Jeffrey Epstein was one of those people. And Peter Thiel has made it very clear in his own words. I'm smarter than other people, and people that are smarter than other people should rule them. They shouldn't have a vote, full stop. So I don't know why everyone wouldn't be looking into JD Vance and his relationship with Peter Thiel and how it's changed his views, because we know JD Vance changes his name. He changes his stance on immigration. America's Hitler is Trump. Now he's the vice president. He will do whatever the fuck Peter Thiel tells him. That's been established. It is scary what's going on with these people.
All right. And then the Telegraph is reporting that they believe Epstein is a Russian spy, was a Russian spy. Pop this up. Poland, the country of Poland, is set to examine an increasingly likely possibility that pedophilia scandal was co-organized by intelligence services in Moscow. And so obviously other countries are taking this very seriously now that the United States government has released this information. And I want to just take a moment here to discuss the following. You have basically the Republican Party who is on board with all of this. They're the billionaire ass-kissing party. That's what the Republican Party has been since Reagan moving forward. They want to kiss the ass of billionaires and make their life easier and make the working class bear the brunt and the shame and the judgment of everybody else so that these billionaires can coast, right? So then after Citizens United, you have corporate Dems. And you have to understand that Jeffrey Epstein, Peter Thiel, Vladimir Putin, the government of Israel, that all have this desire to dismantle democracy. You might say, why are you throwing in Israel? Israel doesn't get to say they're a democracy when their prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, recently was saying now is not the time for elections. Mm-hmm. So all of this is just propaganda that we've all bought into. So you have to understand this whole idea of controlled opposition is very, very real. And I know some of you in the comment section are like, I agree with you. I'm really pissed at the Dems. Some of you are like, oh, don't beat up on Democrats. I don't want us to lose. Here's the important distinction that everybody needs to understand. There are corporate Democrats that want to defeat the progressive side of the Democratic Party every bit as much as MAGA wants to defeat the progressive side of the Democratic Party because they're corporatists. Some have an R next to their name. Some have a D next to their name. The progressive side of the party, this is Bernie Sanders, this is AOC, this is Elizabeth Warren, and others, want no PAC money, regardless if the other side raises more, on principle that they're not going to be bought and paid for. These big businesses, Wall Street executives, corporations are very, very fearful of progressive Democrats. So they control the opposition. You see this right now when you see Chuck Schumer swearing to give AIPAC more and more money, swearing to give Israel more and more money. Hakeem Jeffries, sometimes a fighter, and sometimes it's like, why aren't you whipping votes? Because they are controlled by these same corporations. So for those of you that sometimes feel like, oh my God, I don't want her beating up on the Democrats, it's important. It's important that we call out all politicians, regardless of party identification, that are corporations first, American people second. And whether they have a D or an R next to their name, we must call them out. And here's why. In the Epstein files, you guys remember Joe Manchin. He's not a senator anymore, but how every single time he had a D next to his name. But every single time he chose corporations over American people. And in his state of West Virginia, really poor, he delivered for the people that were causing cancer to the coal miners. He delivered for the people that exploit working class people. He never, not one day, fought for poor West Virginians to ever get a chance. You want to know why? It's right here in the Epstein files. Pop this up. Hi, Jeffrey. I'm assuming that Andrew Farkas did not get back with you regarding the yacht for Senator Manchin and his family on January 2nd. So I'm going to confirm tomorrow with someone else who may have a large enough boat that they can use. Thanks. With warm regards, Cecile. So this is why, viewer, we must criticize and draw the distinction between corporate Dems and progressive Dems, because corporate Dems are bought and paid for, and they are able to, yeah, we're for gay marriage, we're for the people, blah, 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 blah. But then you see Hakeem not whipping the vote. Why isn't he whipping the vote on ICE? Because ICE is primarily, yes, it's used to terrorize us. But underneath that, you guys, it is a huge for-profit organization with all of these concentration camps and prisons that Trump's donors, Palantir, they're all getting their pockets lined. And so when you see Democrats voting with Republicans on ICE, It is because you have to remember ICE has two purposes: terrorize people, but more importantly, the Achilles heel of the United States of America, profit over people. And that's the thing. And so Joe Manchin here, we see exactly what it is. He's getting a boat from a pedophile. So all of those times that I was watching, like, fucking Joe Manchin, why does he even say he's a Democrat? I feel the same way now about corporate Dems. And it's so, so important that y'all understand the distinction, because I used to not. I've evolved on this. My husband was always very critical. He's a lifelong Democrat, but he was always very critical of the Democratic Party. And some of the stuff he would say, I would go, because I didn't want him, like, messing up any chance for that person to win. And I made a really huge mistake. I didn't criticize Kamala during the last race because I wanted her to win so badly. But in my inability to not be rigorously honest and not listen to the base of the party that was very upset about a blank check to Israel, still lost. We still lost. And so I've evolved in the sense that we have to address all injustices. We have to address all improprieties. We have to address why do Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries suck so bad. Follow the money. These people are corporations first, American people down the list. For Republicans, it's Trump first, then corporations. American people aren't even on it. Democrats are a little bit better. There's no question about it. There's no question the country would be a million times better off. Not even comparable if Kamala Harris were president right now. But if we do not address the core symptoms that lead us into fascism, each time it comes back, it will come back stronger, harder, and more relentlessly. All right, that's all we have. Like, subscribe, comment. We'll be back later with more news.
So I wanted to show you guys that information. There's another video I wanted to show you right after this. I had to go run and grab my daughter. But for y'all that are trying to always peg me as a Democrat and all this other stuff, that's why I don't choose no party. All y'all jumping on the Republican bandwagon and the Democrat bandwagon, they're all corrupt. Both sides are corrupt at heart. At the root of it, the people that are at the top of it, they're doing this. They're into some wild stuff, y'all. That's why I never would say, no, I'm independent. I think of it as an independent. You know what I'm saying? And the moment I hear that there's some wild ish going on, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. They're messing around with kids. They're doing all this wild stuff, and I'm not for it. So, when it really boils down to it, we need to understand this is all the same bird. People are saying that I'm focused on Israel and not about their people or the Arab people, whatever. No, I'm focused on the Epstein files and the stories that are coming out about these weirdos. The intelligence. You can't blame the messenger about what's coming out in the news about this and say, well, that's liberal news and this, that, the other. Y'all need to cut that out. So hold on 1 second before I walk in this room. Yeah, I'm not for any of this. I think it's all crazy and weird and creepy, and it's a shame that people was picking these sides, especially Black people jumping in on this and trying to choose between these people, and they're all weird and gross. Okay, so let's go back to some more of the shocking information that we found that was going on with this Epstein file case that was on that found on Tabby Tabs.
Here's images here. Highlighted here. You guys, I'm shaking right now, but I think they switched him out. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number, and a guy in a green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You didn't hear about corporate media talk about this. Again, see the information that's coming out now?
This talking about Epstein he ended up not even he's not even the one who caved himself. So now there's this weird thing going on where they're saying that he left the night before, that he didn't cave, so he didn't office or commit whatever they said to be how he died. So all this stuff is coming out more and more as time is going on. You know, and it's all this. It all has to do with a lot of this. Like the group. What do they call themselves? The cult of Baal.
There's a comment here. Not saying anything after this. Please do not try to dox me. But last night after 4:15 count, they took him medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. Next thing we knew, a trip van shows up. I mean, people have said this before and they said, how do you even know that Jeffrey Epstein is dead? I mean, we really don't know. Honestly, we really don't. But that's interesting, isn't it? Jeffrey Epstein, another thing that was revealed here, him and Ghislaine were dirty, nasty, sick people. Epstein and Maxwell buried 2 foreign kids who were strangled to death during rough sex. Actually, let me keep it like this because it's larger this way. This is from Edie, Oregon. Let's go down here. Subject, Jeffrey Epstein. Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff at the Zorro. So remember, Jeffrey Epstein had multiple properties. One of those was also that Zorro Ranch. So this is taking us back to the Zorro Ranch. It goes on to say here, the material...
You know, you guys can't be just so stuck on Democrat versus Republican and be so dumb to be so... You can't be so smart and be so stupid. It was Democrats and Republicans, not only Democrats. Cut it out. Let's go.
I could not handle this one on my own. Tim, thank you for joining me.
Well, I'm glad that I'm the person that people call for the JD Vance is an asshole and I want to scream about him beat, because I do feel like that's a good brand for me and is authentic to how I feel. And I just want to give him a swirly really badly. And like a metaphorical swirly. Don't come for me.
Or you know, maybe at some point later on in life, I think it's fine. But this interview that JD Vance just did with the Daily Mail, it's not out in full yet. They put out 2 clips. The first was about JD responding to a question about Alex Preddy, which will make your blood boil. The second was about Epstein, something that Vance has not said a word about, and he's been offline for like 5 days now. But
which is interesting since he's the commander in chief of X.
Of tweeting. Yeah, that's all he does. But the answer that he gave is just.
I mean, is all this really necessary? I gotta be a lying whore. I gotta be a lying whore. Isn't Trump a Democrat? I mean, a Republican? Wasn't he not on the thing? He's the president. He's like the biggest Republican, right? What are you talking about? Shut up. You said name one. I did.
Like a gigantic red flag, like huge flashing alarm. It was just really stupid and kind of fits in line with some of what Trump says. I'm going to get to that after the Preddy answer because it just made my blood boil. I'm sure you'll feel the same. It's a little bit long, but it's fucking horrifying.
If it is determined that they did, do you think those immigration agents who shot at Alex Preddy and killed him, do you think they should face criminal prosecution?
I think they should follow the law. We should follow the law.
But should they face criminal prosecution?
Well, you're asking me to engage in a hypothetical. I'm not going to prejudge these guys. I think that everybody is deserved the presumption of innocence in the American system of justice.
Except Alex Preddy.
They're going to investigate. If they find out that he violated the law, of course, you should face consequences for violating the law. But I'm not going to engage in conjecture about the different permutations of how he might, or how this or that officer might have violated the law. Let's do the investigation. Let's figure out, did these officers have a reasonable fear of Alex Preddy given what happened? Did they engage in lawful conduct or unlawful conduct? Let's let the investigation determine those things.
Have you apologized? Did you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him an assassin with ill intent.
Well, again, I just described to you what I said about Alex Preddy, which is that he's a guy who showed up with ill intent to an ICE protest.
No, but if it is
he's
determined, if it's determined that his civil rights were violated by this FBI investigation, will you apologize to that?
So if this hypothetical leads to that hypothetical leads to another hypothetical, it's a real case, will I do a thing? And again, like I said, we're going to let the investigation determine. We're going to let the actual.
It goes on more. I can't stand another fucking second. It's not a hypothetical. They fucking killed him. It's not a hypothetical. I can't.
Yeah. Also, JD Vance engages in conjecture all the time.
All the time.
JD Vance's whole job is to engage in conjecture. He engages in conjecture about what type of pets that immigrants allegedly eat. He engages in conjecture about his political foes. So, I don't understand why this is the one time that he feels like he can't engage in any conjecture. But the situation with Alex Preddy, it's one thing if, let's say we have a wholly different situation. Let's do a hypothetical, like an imaginary situation, not the real killing he's been asked to respond to, but an imaginary situation where somebody got killed. There's no tape of it. and there's an allegation that an ICE agent had done it, then in that case, it would make sense, right? You'd be like, we need to wait for the evidence. We need to see what happens. Did they actually do it? Did they not? Like, this is not one of those cases. We saw it. Like, it's not like we have to wait for it. What is the investigation going to determine? Just exactly why those officers pissed their pants and shot them? Is it going to determine whether or not that they were just scaredy cats who like heard somebody shout gun and then unloaded their clip? Or is it going to determine that they hated Alex Brady and premeditated murder him? Like, either way, like, we know that they fired 10 bullets into a disarmed man's body. And then they found like 6 of those 10 bullets into a dead man's body laying on the ground when he showed no threat at all. And so I don't like the whole premise that like, oh, we've got to wait for an investigation on this one is ridiculous. I mean, like, sure, everybody deserves innocence until proven guilty. I'm not asking for JD Vance to, unilaterally jail him like they tried to do with Don Lemon and other people. But I do think that you can comment on what we've all seen with our fucking eyes, and you can also observe the fact that your initial comments about him is that he was an assassin, that he's a domestic terrorist is not true. We know that's not true. Now we don't need a jury to tell you that it's not true. We know it's not true.
That's the thing. These are the most reactionary people. That is their job, is to be reactionary. So to say, well, we're going to wait for an investigation, but you didn't wait for an investigation. With the limited, basically non-information you had at the time, you came to a judgment. So when you also then, in this hypothetical, what a fucking smug asshole. Wouldn't you be able to come to some sort of judgment? Why are we now waiting on an investigation? And I don't know if you saw the ProPublica reporting revealing the identity of the 2 agents who did kill Alex Preddy. But it was kind of like, I think it was kind of glossed over that in the report that they sent to Congress, they didn't identify the men. So there's an investigation supposedly, but we're learning nothing about these individuals. Their identities are being hidden. So what are you waiting for in this investigation if it's not going to tell us anything? Just don't really
also,
know
just on this point, while we're to be serious about like if there was a real investigation, which you can't take them from the word about anything. No. But my colleague Jonathan Last did an interview over on the Bullock YouTube page with Radley Balco, who's like probably the best reporter out there just when it comes to covering police and covering, law enforcement and what is appropriate, what excesses are. And he's been on the kind of law enforcement violence beat for a long time now. And basically what he was saying to JBL was like, everything they've done is wrong. Like, even if you take a corrupt police force, like that is trying to protect their own police officer who did something wrong and hurt someone, they still like go through the motions of securing the location, gathering all the evidence, having an independent investigator look into it, giving us the person's name, putting them on leave. Right? Like they haven't done any of that. Like they've just done a straight cover up that is even more egregious than what even the most corrupt police department in the country would have done in the past.
Tim, you're a good podcaster because you said straight cover up, which leads us into the Epstein clip. Again, what Vance...
And really quickly, not only did they not put the guy on leave, but they just sent him to another location and he's still out there working. So, the whole thing is just weird, but let's go. Let's get into to break down the whole Epstein admission from JD Vance. Let's go.
Kind of like his subtle admission here. Him and Trump keep doing this thing where they make contradicting arguments. I want to talk about that, but let's just look at this clip first. It's
scandalous photos of him on the floor with a young woman. Should he testify in Capitol Hill?
I saw Keir Starmer said something about this, right? That he should go and testify. I mean, look, I'm certainly open to it. I think we let congressional Republicans determine whether he adds anything. I know that they're doing a very exhaustive investigation because the thing that people always, I think, forget or sometimes forget about the Epstein investigation is there was a Department of Justice investigation back, I think, in 2007. It was a very bad investigation. There are a lot of things that they didn't try to uncover, a lot of things they didn't try to look at. I would say because they were trying to protect a lot of their friends, but whatever the explanation is.
Whoa. Whatever so they were trying to protect their friends, whatever, just go past that. Just don't even worry about it. Huh? Maybe we should look into that. And that's what him and Trump continue to do. Like you saw it yesterday. And the biggest admission from Trump of all was when he was like, I feel bad for Bill Clinton. Yeah. Why do you feel bad for Bill Clinton? But they keep doing this contradictory argument thing where they say, time to move on from the Epstein files. It doesn't matter. It was a nothing burger. But also 2007, the DOJ was covering up. And there's this conspiracy with Hillary's emails, Barack Obama's birth certificate, Michael Wolff and Epstein to overturn the 2016 election. And it's the biggest criminal enterprise we've ever seen. So which is it, JD? Is it move on time? Is it, I don't really know congressional Republicans, who gives a fuck? Or was it the DOJ was covering up for their friends? Your friends, mind you, Peter Thiel, all the people who funded JD Vance's political career were talking with Epstein at that time and after it. So does that matter?
Yeah. And JD is doing there in that clip the exact thing that he mocked in that tweet that he sent in like 2021, where he's like, just ask yourself why, people don't want to talk about the conspirators here and who they might be protecting, right? Like when he thought that this was, a cudgel that he could use against the Biden administration by making some generic, weird, cryptic accusations that maybe they're protecting Bill Clinton or maybe they're protecting their donors or whatever. And now he's doing the thing that he accused. And this is projection. They do this all the time. But he's doing that very thing. And, that 2007 report that you reference, or the original indictment, there are 3 co-conspirators that are redacted.
Mm-hmm.
And so you assume one of them is probably Maxwell, but then there are other, the initial DOJ investigation was going to investigate other people. Who? What? What? And they just can't expect us to accept this at face value, which is we don't want good men to be falsely smeared. And then simultaneously, though, we also don't have any other co-conspirators. Sorry, we got nothing. There's nothing to see here. That's what Kash Patel testified. There wasn't a conspiracy. It was just him. And it's that doesn't work. If this was a meticulous process, we're going to try to do our best to redact people that get falsely accused, whatever. That's not what they're doing. They're just dumping shit out there and trying to very ham-handedly, to be honest, pivot off of it.
I want to,
and I want to just also say this. This whole thing, you're seeing more and more files being redacted. Come to find out, check this out. They're saying that Trump is actually being blackmailed in this situation. Let's check this out.
Of the Epstein files have not only revealed some horrific sex crimes that we all knew, but as the camera comes into focus, it becomes more and more depraved. And also, it's revealing that Epstein and American oligarchs are involved in a network of espionage with Vladimir Putin in Israel to sabotage United States democracy and even the European Union's democracies. The Daily Mail, a conservative British paper, summarizes it like this. Pop this up, Kylie. Epstein's sex empire was KGB honey trap. Pedophile financier had multiple talks with Putin after conviction, with Russian girls flown in to harvest compromat on world famous figures. And this last dump, I think not only is Trump's name in it thousands of times, but also Vladimir Putin's name is in it thousands of times. And this is just really, really goes back to 2016 when Hillary Clinton was talking about Donald Trump being Putin's puppet. And then it just makes me, and I'm sure it does you guys too, why has all of this been sitting at DOJ for all of this time? And they just stopped it with Jeffrey Epstein and his quote unquote suicide and jailed Ghislaine Maxwell.
Let me also say this, that like I said earlier, we talked about Savvy Sam said, that now you look at the file and about 400 pages have been redacted, taken out of the public file of that whole that's available for people, for the press to read, taken out on the DOJ website. Can you find it? So it's interesting how this whole thing is all laying out. It's interesting, so let's go.
Why on earth have these people not been called in front of Congress? Why on earth are there not robust espionage, treason style conversations being had at the highest levels of government? It is such a disappointment that both political parties, both Republicans and Democrats, were fine just leaving it the way it was. Put up this next slide, Kylie. So Jurgen Nadit tweets, Putin's name appears more than 1,000 times in Jeffrey Epstein's files. This is according to the Daily Mail. The paper reports that the financier may have been working in Moscow's interest and amassing compromising information about the global elite. He allegedly used Russian women for this purpose. According to the journalist, Epstein boasted about his access to the Kremlin and mentioned a, quote, friend of Putin who was able to arrange visas. There has long been speculation on social media that Putin's involvement in the Epstein affair.
I want to say this real quick. Do not put the P word into my, don't put the P word into my chat. If you do, you're going to get banned, okay? Because all that does is that it makes YouTube stop sending people my way. And I know what you're doing. People are doing that strategically. Stop that. You'll get banned. Don't do that. Let's go.
was only a matter of time and thorough investigation. Now it seems that time has come. And I just want to remind you, this time has come because Massey and Kana forced these files to come out. Otherwise, they were just going to sit there. We know Merrick Garland and Joe Biden didn't do anything with it. And think about that. We had democracy on the line. We had a man, Donald Trump, who instructed and coordinated and financed a violent insurrection wherein his supporters wanted to kill the vice president of the United States, Mike Pence. And think about that. Mike Pence, a white, evangelical, Republican Christian, not even he is safe in the MAGA movement. And the DOJ and the Biden administration knew all of this. They knew all of this Epstein stuff was there. All of these ties to Russia. And they didn't do it, what, because you wanted to be independent? You wanted to not appear partisan? Meanwhile, you charge Hunter Biden with chicken shit stuff just to satisfy the rabid right. And my question is, why do Democratic administrations always placate and show deferential treatment to the potential narrative that these insane MAGA right-wingers that are in the epicenter of the Epstein files with Vladimir Putin and the former prime minister of Israel, everybody's getting honeypotted, everybody in Donald Trump's cabinet, from Howard Lutnick to Elon Musk, are over on Pedo Island. It's just unbelievable. The absolute.
So those people that are saying, name one Republican, there you go. There you go. There's two more, okay? Even though Elon Musk is don't be cussing me out in my little chat. You know what I'm saying? That you just because you say it in Spanish, don't do that. Stop it.
Absolute failures. And is it willful? You know, there are some Democrats in these files too, not that I've seen besides Bill Clinton, that were elected officials, but the public position has always been release them all. Let the chips fall where they may. Number one, because these victims, these poor girls, were trafficked because of their socioeconomic positioning in their broken homes. They were trafficked because they were the easiest prey. And then they were trafficked to all of these disgusting, depraved men. And it's so interesting that after Jeffrey Epstein did his sweetheart deal with Alex Acosta, who later served in Trump's 1.0, and everybody knew that he was a pedophile, he continues to operate with complete impunity. And
let me also say this. Not too long ago, I would say probably maybe it was maybe last year, I did a whole story that was talking about that they had these women. There was a guy who did a documentary about women in Russia and how people would get the women in Russia. They would offer them an amount of money, $10,000 to have a child, and then give it over to the people, to certain traffickers. Now, these women didn't have no connection. They didn't want to have the child. So they would find a woman that just didn't want, she was struggling, whatever. Once again, this kind of goes back to that Ellis Island thing. There's certain women that are struggling, or they ain't making no money, they're living in squalor, and they don't want to have this child. So what they would do is they would take that woman, and then when she was in her ninth month, they take that woman in. That woman would then have the baby, but then the woman would get trafficked herself. And then she would, once they used her up and got done with her, that woman would disappear. There's a whole documentary talking about this. And then they would take that child is then disappears too. They find a way to be able to ship them off to another country. Somehow that person's identity would just vanish. I think it would be in Saudi Arabian country, that person would just vanish. And this was happening very fluently in Russia. So it was said that a lot of these kids and everything was coming out of where? Russia. And who knows how many kids are coming out of China and different places where that trafficking element is just, when you deal with people that are really in adverse situations in these countries, and they could just be wiped off the map just like that. So this whole thing is just crazy when you actually look at it. Let's go.
That to me is really interesting. It tells me that Epstein thought, I have so much compromising information on all of these people. I can still do whatever I want, when I want, how I want. And then it escalates so much that he ends up in Trump 1.0's DOJ prison. And I don't think there's any question at this point that wasn't a suicide. And
no, I thought you were calling me a pendeja or something like that. Don't be calling me. I know what a pendeja is.
The only person serving any sentence on this is Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman, and she deserves to be in prison. And then she's able to meet with Todd Blanche, the president's failed attorney, the one that oversaw his felony convictions, she's able to meet with him and make no mistake about it. She's like, listen up, MFer. I know this, I know this, I know this. You better move me to another prison and work on getting me a pardon. And that's where this is all heading. All right. So this gets juicier and juicier. And the compromise that Vladimir Putin has on Trump was assisted by the world's most famous prolific pedophile child sex trafficker. Pop this up. Joni Escola posts, the media is still missing the biggest story in the Epstein emails. The emails show Epstein helped Russia blackmail Donald Trump. He was advising Putin's circle on how to control the U.S. president. Trump is compromised, and we need to make sure everyone sees this. In the email, it says, from Jeffrey Epstein, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It is not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple. And then the person that he was emailing, Thorban Jaglin, says, I'll meet Lavros's assistant on Monday. These are people right in Putin's inner circle. And will suggest, thank you for a lovely evening. I'll come to a high level next week. It's amazing that these people, they're typos, but that's neither here nor there. And then Jeffrey responds to that and says, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. So he's helping Vladimir Putin with the compromise on Donald Trump. Why is he doing this? And who else is he talking to? Well, he's talking to Steve Bannon nonstop.
And shouts out to whoever has their little troll accounts up. Thank you for watching. You know, I'm hitting a nerve because now you got your little troll accounts up here commenting. But yeah, I could delete them. It doesn't even matter.
Stop. And he's talking to Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, you might remember, is the immigrant that owns Palantir, that has decided that modern society is no longer compatible with democracy. And he wants a top-down rule, and he wants a CEO installed to rule America. Okay, he can't run for political office. So what did he do? He had to buy J.D. Vance. He had to purchase J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance is for sale, and he is a political prostitute that's changed his name 3 times, his religion 3 times, and will not defend his wife, who was a first-generation American, and his mixed-race kids. So J.D. Vance is a soulless coward. So Peter Thiel buys J.D. Vance so he can get to the levers of American power, knowing that Russia, via the help of Jeffrey Epstein, has Donald Trump completely compromised. They have him by the balls. This is why Trump bashed and bullied the Zelensky in the Oval Office. This is why Trump rolled down the red carpet in Alaska and clapped like a seal when Vladimir Putin walked out. And Peter Thiel is right in the middle of this. Pop this up. Greg Oliar posts, if Peter Thiel is a Russian asset, then by the transitive property, so is J.D. Vance. And this is regarding more on the Epstein-Thiel connection. We already know Epstein was looping him into discussions with Russian Ambassador Churkin in 2016. But here, back in 2015, he's introducing Thiel to his Kremlin handler, Sergei Belyakov, who organizes a meeting. So you have to ask yourself, why is Peter Thiel, Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Epstein, why are they constantly talking to Russia? Russia's supposed to be our adversary. What do they have in common? Oh, yeah. Putin doesn't want Western democracies to survive. He wants to annihilate them. He wants the United States to be in a civil war. This is widely accepted fact. Peter Thiel, as we know, doesn't think that the United States should be a democracy anymore. He doesn't have the balls to put his name on a ballot and go run like a big boy. So he uses his money to cheat the system. And Thiel and Epstein actually collaborated on Brexit. So the United States, all of this, the bots and all of us fighting with each other is the Russian psychological warfare game in full play. But they've also done the same thing with the UK and trying to get the UK out of the EU in Brexit. Pop this up. Thiel was celebrating with Epstein the success of the first major success with Russia, dismantling the EU. Jeffrey Epstein emails Peter Thiel, Brexit, just the beginning. So I want you to think about this. Jeffrey Epstein, the guy who is a pedophile, collaborating with Peter Thiel, who does, as a side hustle, conferences and speeches on the Antichrist. These people cannot put their names on the ballot and run for office and get a movement behind them. So they're cheaters. They honeypot people, get compromising information on them. They get Elon Musk to buy X. Vladimir Putin has thousands and millions of bot farms to do psychological warfare. And they want to scapegoat immigrants. It's an old playbook where they scapegoat immigrants. They did this in the UK with Brexit. By the way, all of the data is in with Brexit. It did not benefit the UK. It did not benefit their economy in the least. But they're celebrating this. Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Thiel are celebrating it and saying just the beginning, which brings me back to the fundamental question. Merrick Garland had this information in his FBI, in his DOJ, and did nothing about it. Think about that. Think about just knowing that this billionaire immigrant in the United States, Peter Thiel, purchased J.D. Vance, ships him off to Silicon Valley, Queer Eyes him, rolls out a Senate seat for him, and then tells Trump, I'll give you a lot of money for your campaign if you pick J.D. Vance to be your vice president. And just the collaboration and the collusion about Brexit and all of these other overarching compromising conflicts of interest, not to mention the child pedophilia, and the Democrats set on this, we're never, ever going to beat fascism if we're more worried about the independence of the Justice Department and not appearing partisan. We'll never, ever defeat these people unless we're willing to get in there and fight and grow some fangs. And then here, it just gets worse. And I could go on and on all day, but Marie Le Pen is the far right France Trump, if you will. Guess who funds her? Pop this up. This was in the Epstein files. Epstein files suggest that Le Pen and France's National Front are largely propped up by Russian money. And in this email, basically Jeffrey Epstein emails Michael Wolff and is talking about being at a lunch where Putin and Russia and all of these former KGB people have all of these little plants, all of these little JD Vances in all of these European countries, even in the far right, crazy German far right party, all thumbprints to Kremlin. And Jeffrey Epstein, who the federal government had by the balls for sex trafficking, as they dig into it, they find out all of this, and then he commits suicide. And then all of this is passed over to Merrick Garland. And not only did he drop the bag on prosecuting Trump, he dropped the bag on this as well. And think about this. I want you to think about January 6th. The people that were tried for January 6th and were convicted, and then who Trump later pardoned, these were the poor people that spend a lot of their time chronically online, freebasing Fox News, Alex Jones, QAnon chat rooms. These are not wealthy people. These are the core cult members who are somehow broken and they thought that Donald Trump was their savior. They were funded. There was financing that set up this Stop the Steal rally. We now know that Donald Trump spent $3 million of his own money. We know that Jenny Thomas, the wife of Clarence Thomas, was in the epicenter of planning this. So what does Merrick Garland's DOJ do? They charge all of the poor cultists, which they deserve to be charged. They beat up cops and did all of this shit. But did they go after the big money? And that's the link between January 6th and the Jeffrey Epstein thing. If you're rich, DOJ, whether it's Democrat or Republican, doesn't do shit with you. And that's not what this is about. And the Supreme Court tells Donald Trump, you're rich, so you have immunity. So that's why we have a president that is lawless, breaking laws, has enriched his family to the tune of $4 billion. You know why? Because Clarence Thomas and John Roberts and his friends at the Supreme Court told him, you can do whatever you want to do. The fix is in, the rig is in, and all of these things are interconnected. And these people have been machinating to plot the overthrow of democracy, not just in the United States of America, but also the European Union, all the way back to after Jeffrey Epstein did a plea deal and pled guilty to being a pedophile. And then they all still continue to communicate with him. Why? Because he has everybody by the balls honeypotted. This is wild stuff. All right.
You guys are so saying that her again, but this is all based on emails that they found in the files. You can't be this.
Subscribe.
Shouts out to her. I like her channel. I've had it. It's what it's called. And shouts out to her. You know. So let's go further into this whole thing when it with the Savvy, and she's going deeper into this whole part of this whole thing that gets into like Satanism. Let's go. You know what? I'm gonna probably cover that when I come back because I gotta go and take care of some business. I'm gonna finish up the video I started earlier, and then we're gonna get into the Sasha Riley story when I come back and revisit this and open the panel up. But Let's finish this part. Let's finish. So see the right when I'm about to get when it's about to get good, that's when my StreamYard get to acting up and my computer is overloading. So it gotta be people that I don't know. It's somebody fooling around with our people that's doing this. We be showing these stories, honey. It's like they are they're doing everything to get this from getting out. Child. People's computers are crashing. Other people I'm watching that's talking about this, their computers are crashing, their StreamYards are going down, their views are getting toggled. I mean, it's interesting how this whole thing. So my thing is that people want us to only look at Fox News, but I'm gonna tell you what, Fox News is only going to show you one side of the thing. People want to say I'm looking at these leftists and these lefties and this, that, the other. Well, they seem to be the only one telling the truth out here and really getting down to the bottom of things. Let's go.
So this is taking us back to the Zorro Ranch. It goes on to say here, the material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about?
I'm not bowing down to a white liberal. I'm reporting the information, and it don't matter if information ain't black or white. Hell, when it's written on a piece of paper, it might be in black and white, but hell, it don't matter who got the information, whether they black or white. So y'all can make it about color, but hell, you know what? It's in black and white, and they're talking about what's in black and white, and it don't matter if you're black or white. Let's go.
About Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G, Jelaine, both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. And then apparently they shared video footage because they said, here are the video footage of Jeffrey Epstein. And they had links at some point, which obviously, we don't have here. But one of them even said that there was the video of him with a minor. This was 2019. We're talking about nasty, down low people.
There's actually a picture of Epstein right now on Facebook that I saw where he's a slant. I guess he's picking up a little young girl and has his mouth open next to her bottom like he's about to bite her bottom. So F out of here with anybody trying to promote trying to talk mess to me about how wild this stuff is getting and what's real and what's not. You guys want to get mad because you're the person that you guys voted for is now getting under fire, but that's who y'all voted for, so you just stand behind it.
And all these people hang together. These are the friends in low, corrupt places. We talk about the media and Jeffrey Epstein's ties to the media. Appears he was closer to Rupert Murdoch than people may have thought. Shout out to Loki. This email seems to imply that Epstein stayed at Rupert Murdoch's house 4 years after being legally required to register as an offender. It says,
you see this? Rupert Murdoch is doesn't he own Fox News? So Fox. So if he's the owner of Fox, how can you tell me that news station is not compromised while y'all steady getting mad when I'm bringing things from CNN and MSNBC? But the very news station that you guys get all your Republican, conservative, whatever y'all want to call yourself news from, because everybody else is liberal and it's nonsense and whatever, is compromised by Epstein. Come on now. Let's
here to Jeffrey Epstein. This is in 2012. I'm a little confused. What are you up to, or Ian, is up to? Are you staying with Rupert too? Can you tell me a little about Ian as well as his home base, Camel? Ian is staying with Rupert Murdoch and his wife. That's what I'm up to. Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News. We can't expect corporate media to tell the truth and to report all of this, what they're supposed to, when you got people who own a freaking network, a media network, who was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and he's staying at his house. So these are things that you need to pay attention to.
Question, is Rupert Murdoch, is he a Republican or a Democrat? Does anybody know? Let's go.
Email there. Let me go to the next one. when we talk about the money, Jeffrey Epstein had a bank account called the Ball and asked someone at JP Morgan to wire him over $11,000. Remember, we just talked about this? The Ball is a demonic figure and an enemy to Jesus as written in the Holy Bible. I mean, I don't know how much more information people need, but if you click on it here, JP Morgan Financial Sponsors, July 29, 2009, and you'll see it right here. Ball, name, that was Wachovia Bank at that time. Please wire $11,438 to Ball. I mean, it's there. It's one of those things like it's there. It's out in the open, but obviously we wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have been able to see this type of information, right? Like what someone's bank account was named. But it's like in so many words, Jeffrey Epstein was telling people who he was without actually saying, this is who I am. And we all know the story about him and JP Morgan and Chase. And I told you guys before how JP Morgan had to turn around and they had to pay that money to the Virgin Islands because that's where a lot of these crimes happen. Not all of them, but that's where a lot of them happened. Let's go back here. Let's go to part 2. Eric, there's a lot of information here. Now, some of the files that come through, as I said before in the other videos, some of the files that come through, some of them.
So he's British. Is he conservative or liberal? If he's from Britain, is he considered a conservative? Rupert Murdoch, is he considered conservative or liberal?
More tips. Some of them are, like emails, etc. But we're just going through what's in the files. Speaking of which, Jeffrey Epstein, another thing, seemed to not like Black people too much. This is another thing that repeatedly came up, especially her, Peggy Siegel. Supremacist Peggy Siegel, one of Hollywood's most powerful publicists, and Epstein had a lot to say about Black people, complained there were too many Blacks at the Isle of France. Island has no history of plantations or you can't make this up. This is bad. It's very tiny, so I'm just going to read it to you from afar. There are too many Blacks on the Isle of France. Oh my God. I can see him here. Hold on.
Watch this. This is how Jay-Z.
There are no Black locals.
Watch Jay-Z get.
I'm sorry, guys. That one's really tiny.
No.
But that's basically what they were saying there. The island has no history of plantations and no ghettos. So she was basically saying, like, why are these Black people here? There's a number of emails that are in the Epstein files where Jeffrey Epstein makes it very clear about he didn't want no Black people around. No Black people. This one here is interesting because they also talk about Jay-Z. If I was Jay-Z, I would be embarrassed by this exchange right here.
Insane. But that's what's crazy is how is a person called Booty Warrior going to say that there's too many Blacks everywhere? What are you talking about? Your name is Booty Warrior. Be quiet.
This is from Jess Stolley to Jeffrey Epstein. Jess Stolley is a banker. He's also was connected with JP Morgan. So we mentioned him before in the other video. You want to know why we are not Sao Paulo? Watch the TV ads on the Super Bowl. It's all about hip Blacks in hip cars with white women. The group that should be in the streets has been bought off by Jay-Z. That is from Jess Stolley at the time of Blue Mountain Capital. In other words, they were basically, seemed like to me, he was trying to say that Jay-Z wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing with the Black community. But also, the fuck is hip Blacks? Where are the hip Blacks? You see how they talk about us? But then you have people like wanting to do business with them. And this is what I'm saying. And another one is Brett Ratner. This one we really got to dive into because Brett Ratner was just on Piers Morgan's show talking about his movie Melania. And so, of course, Piers Morgan did ask him about the picture of him in the Epstein files. But Brett Ratner isn't telling the whole story, which Whitney Webb had explained months ago about his connection.
No, I think that they didn't have a lot of Black kids on the island because people be looking for their kids. Black kids, Black parents do not be like, oh, okay, that kid is gone. All right, so what? Or even, I mean, there might be some Black women that would have a child and give it to the island and get raped and whatever, and won't think twice about it. But I don't think it's the same. There might have been a few, but honey, we look for our kids. If there's something going on, we will send a searchlight. Everything will happen to look for our kids. We will be looking for that child for 23,000 years after, you'd be old as hell in your 80s still looking for that child. So we are not gonna let our child go missing or even become like a baby making machine, for this type of all the little weird things they got going on. This is a cultural thing, I believe. I'm sorry.
This guy right here, that's Brett Ratner. This guy has criminal ties. Now, I don't know if Pierce Morgan knew that, but he definitely didn't bring it up. But listen to what he said about this picture of him and Brett Ratner.
The very serious and big stories in the news, the Epstein files. As you know, the picture came out of you with Jeffrey Epstein with two apparently young women in it. What is your response to that picture? And what is your response to the wider scandal of the Epstein files?
Oh, well, that picture in particular happened around 20 years ago, 19, 20 to 21 years ago, because that is a photograph of my fiance who invited me to this event. And that's where the picture was taken. I was never been in contact with Jeffrey Epstein before that photo, and I was never in contact with him after. So that's a picture of me and my fiance at some event.
Wow. So who was the fiance, if you don't mind me asking?
She doesn't want me sharing her name in the case, but that's my fiance, 100%.
Well, why
was my fiance?
You're not still.
I'm not
I was going to say you're not still with them.
No, he's not engaged.
Yeah.
It's the world's longest engagement in 20 years.
20 years ago, I was engaged to her when that photo was taken.
Why is this guy coming in to speak for Brett Ratner? He looks pretty nervous here.
Right.
Yes.
And your position is you never met Epstein before or after that picture that night?
No, never. Never.
What is your opinion of the Epstein file scandal? As this more and more stuff cascades out, more and more people, very high profile people are dragged in. What is your view of this?
I mean, it's horrible. You see, I've been somehow sucked in, through an image. So, there's so many stories about so many different people.
It's horrible. I somehow been sucked into it. No. You weren't sucked into it. This guy. So first of all, it's not just that photo. Brett Ratner, this guy has a history, which Unlimited Hangout exposed months ago. It's not just about that picture of him in the files. So I'm gonna let him finish and I'm gonna show you his history and all these connections that he has.
It's hard to really follow and track what's truth and what's not truth. You can see where one photograph kind of puts me, there with him, and then all the stories start to spin out. So I don't really know because I didn't know him. It wasn't really my world. It's not really my world.
Piers,
Oh yes, he was in your world. Let's get to this part, because you see, shout out to Whitney Webb and the Unlimited Hangout, because I want to show you. I read this when this article was published. I read this on the show. This was back in April 2025. You guys remember this? Remember the one label under Blackmail? The intersections of Diddy and the Epstein network. So there's Brett Ratner right there on the left. So let me get to the part, because I want to show you. We got to get past the Diddy part. If you haven't read this article, break it down sometime. Sit down and read it. It's long. That's why I said if you have a Saturday or whatever, just sit down and read it. But it reveals a lot of information. We get into the MCA, the Mob Corporation of America, MCA Records. So sorry, guys, it's long. Just give me a second. I got to go to that picture to get to Brett Ratner. It's a lot of people mentioned in here. When there's Clive Davis, I want to make sure I didn't miss it. I'm sorry, guys. I should have had this in the spot already. Of course, Clive Davis is in here. I didn't realize how far down I went last time for this one. There it is. Okay. That's Brett Ratner right there on the left. That's Michael Jackson, and that's Diddy. Okay. Brett Ratner is not just some guy who made Melania's documentary that just came out. And at this time, let me just go down here. Malnick's own protege, his adopted son, Brett Ratner, claims to have also fostered a close relationship early on with Mayor Lansky himself. In a 2011 interview, Ratner stated the following: "I grew up on Miami Beach. I lived on Collins Avenue at the Courage House, 54th Street, And 2 doors down was the Imperial House, where every day after school, I would ride my bike and I would walk down the street with an old man who would walk his dog. We'd walk together, blah, blah, blah. I didn't realize it until I was in line at the supermarket with my mom and I opened up Rolling Stone and saw his picture on the back. It was Mayor Lansky's obituary. Everybody thought it was weird because he was 80 and I was 12. He was the biggest gangster in the world, and he was like my best friend as a kid. But according to Brett Ratner, he told Piers Morgan he didn't grow up in that world. There's more as we go on here, because he's trying to act, all innocent there. While some may discount this claim as fantasy on Ratner's part, his close ties to Malnick, Lansky's heir, during the same period of his alleged association with Lansky lends the story credence. In addition, it is worth noting Ratner's big break that allowed him to become a famous director came somewhat unexpectedly in his mediocre film school career via Steven Spielberg. As previously noted, Spielberg was a protege of Weiserman and Scheinberg of MCA, a company with significant mob and intelligence affiliation, while Wasserman himself was connected to Lansky's network via his longtime tie to Lansky associate Mo Dalitz.
Wait a minute. The MCA had intelligence connections? Wow, this is crazy. So the music industry is a combination, like I said before. Remember I was saying the Central Intelligence Agency. All this stuff has some level of intelligence, Israel intelligence. This whole thing is, insane. Let's go.
Like Epstein's main benefactor, Leslie Wexner. See, there's that name again. Ratner would later follow the Lansky model of evading charges and scrutiny for illegal activities by immigrating to Israel. After he was accused of extreme sexual misconduct, including alongside Simmons, Ratner fled to Israel. A week before his escape, Ratner had been Benjamin Netanyahu's special guest, along with former Epstein defense lawyer Alan Dershowitz at the United Nations. But according to Brett Ratner, he wasn't in that world. So it's not just about the picture of Brett Ratner. He had allegations against him before, and he got on a plane and he fled to Israel when it happened. And we all know that Israel has become a haven for pedophiles. They are protected there. When we talk about friends in low places, we can't forget about Peter Attia. Mr. Peter Attia, who was just hired by Barry Weiss at CBS News, by the way, he says he never visited Epstein's island or ranch. Peter Attia's assistant in 2015, below are Peter's flight details for his trip to Jeffrey's ranch next week. I mean, these people can't even lie right. This is how bad it is. Peter's flight details for his trip to Jeffrey's ranch. This one, I think, if someone's going to go down, and by go down, I mean probably fired, it's going to be probably Peter Attia. Okay? They're looking to get rid of him now. Because he was probably, the emails and the files about him were probably some of the worst ones. This guy here kind of laid it out. I thought this was pretty funny.
I want to understand more about living.
Don't care. Hey, Dr. Attia, Mr. Celebrity Doctor Longevity Guy. Why are you listed in the Epstein files emailing with Jeffrey Epstein in 2016 talking about pussy being low carb? What is the fresh shipment you were emailing Epstein about? Why did you tell Epstein the biggest problem with becoming friends with you? The life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. And while your son was in the hospital, you were in Manhattan chilling with Epstein. You're cooked, bro. CBS is probably going to fire you. And we'll see what happens as your job of chief science officer of this shitty protein bar company. Don't buy these. They suck.
Yeah, that one, I don't see how he gets out of this one. He's probably going to be fired. If I had to pick someone that's probably going to be fired, it's probably going to be him. And that makes you question things around Barry Weiss, right? Why is it that Barry Weiss, why is she hiring all these people that's mainly pro-Israel? And she got an answer for that. She brought him in. Oprah's guru, apparently, they got emails of him in the Epstein files. Oprah's approved spiritual guru, Deepak Chopra, is one of them. This is what he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. The tiger is bringing me to places I had abandoned. It looks like the MGH Harvard Chopra Mind Brain Institute will actually happen, which means riding the tiger even more. I wanted validation from scientists. Some is happening and some will remain ever skeptical and condescending. Suddenly, it does not feel important. what do I enjoy most? I don't know that I can really say. My biological needs are met occasionally, but that too, it seems I've been there, done that. I have 3 more books to write, and then we'll be done with that as well. I will be going for 1 week silence at the end of this month with a small group. Maybe some more clarity than I do enjoy the company of younger, intellectually sharp and self-aware women, and love to engage with them to inspire and stimulate them. Well, and this is not the first person that Oprah has had as some type of spiritual guru that's end up in some type of abuse situation with younger girls. Have at it. We have seen this before. I forget the other guy's name. We talked about it before on the show. The other guy that she told people to go to. He's supposed to be some spiritual guru, and it turns out he was abusing those girls. You can't trust these people. The other one here I thought was interesting. Peter Thiel is also throughout the Epstein files. Epstein to Peter Thiel. Here we go here. Let me actually keep it this way because it's bigger. From Jeffrey to Peter Thiel. Donald's New York supporters concerned. We can talk if you like. He cannot release his tax returns. So what are his options? So that was August of 2016. That was before Donald Trump won the election for his first presidential term. Why the fuck is Jeffrey Epstein telling Peter Thiel that Donald New York supporters are concerned? The fuck that got to do with Peter Thiel? Another billionaire. And we know that Peter Thiel created JD Vance. JD Vance is Peter Thiel's creation. So everybody connecting the dots. You see what's happening here? All these people roll together. I can't believe people were dumb enough to put this in email.
I can't believe it either, you guys. And let me tell you something. I'm just like going. I'm like finding this information out. It's mind blowing to me how crazy they thought that no one could. But I think that's the thing. The people that were like Jeffrey Epstein probably told him, I have the most secure system known to man. Nobody's ever going to get this. We who knows what kind of secure email they thought that they had. They could be able to send. Right. I can't believe people were dumb enough to put this fool in office again. Yes. Like, what is going on? This whole thing is like, what? Listen, guys, I got stuff to do. I've been on here for an hour and a half. Man, this is crazy. We're going to come back and we're going to do, yes, they do. They all worship today. We're going to come back. We're going to do an open panel when I come back a little bit later on to further discuss this. It depends on what time I get back, but I have things to do in the real world. But this is pretty damning, and there's way more that I like actually found out. Like just insane things that I found out, and I'm gonna come back and show those things later on. But we have to really reevaluate what is all this stuff happening with ICE. What is all these projects? Are these projects, were they being talked about on the island way years ago? Project this and project that. Were all these things being kind of like planned while they sat over dinner and ate food, on this island, drinking and probably, doing whatever, substances they were doing, Was all this stuff like, and then, and was Jeffrey Epstein like privy to like national security level type stuff? And then sending this information between Putin and all his relationships. Why didn't anybody feel compromised being around in these things? Maybe Trump didn't know he was going to be president one day. Maybe he was chosen to be president during a meeting on his island. Maybe they told him, you know what, you're going to be president one day and we're going to get behind you. They had, this is the type of stuff they do in secret. They make decisions like this. And then you have all this movement going on, You have Peter Thiel. Okay, well, we're going to make you president again, but guess what? You have to have JD Vance as your vice president. Things like this get discussed like this. You're going to be, one day we're going to do it like this, and this is how it's going to be done. I'm going to put someone, and you can't say nothing. I mean, just real, like, mob boss type of energy. And everybody says that when you met Jeffrey Epstein, that he was creepy and very evil. And he didn't necessarily he at first he when a guy said, don't you feel like you're like the devil in the devil himself? And at first he actually was answering the question like, well, he said, well, hold on, and then he had to correct himself, This whole thing is weird, dealing with all this like just harvesting little kids and all this stuff. And this is the thing of conspiracy theories and all this stuff that they've been saying, but everybody thought those people were crazy. I think I remember even Alex Jones at one point was really, really hardcore with it. But when he said that thing about that the whole, Columbine, these were actors and everybody canceled him and he wasn't, then he had to go independent, his whole thing got destroyed. But he was actually at one point one of the main ones talking about the cabal and the children and this, that, the other. I remember back in the day when before Alex Jones got demonized, he was out here really like pushing the whole thing about these like cabal and these child doing this to kids and this, that, the other. And all of a sudden, I think he mainly stopped. I am gonna do some research and see if he revved it back up again because at one point, he got canceled. And I used to watch him, even though he's racist or whatever. I think he's kind of racist. I don't know. But I used to watch Alex Jones back in the day because he used to be having some heat, on his shows. He got squashed, and I don't know. I think somebody probably paid him off too. Dumbest channel ever. Okay, well, why are you here, sir? Let me help you out, dumbest channel ever. Let me help you out. A little troll fake account. Let me help my little troll out that likes to come on my channel and say stupid shit. Okay? Don't come to my channel no more, dumbest channel ever person. Fake Trey Edward. See, half these people be fake troll accounts saying stupid stuff. I know who my audience is and who is not. So, anyways, I want to thank you guys for being here for this time. I'm inching up. Thank you, DJ. You got a great channel. Thank you so much. I know who's here for me and who's not. People that's coming in on these different things, saying stupid stuff, cut it out. Thank you. Good channel. Yes, that's because you know what? People that want to say that they don't want to know the truth. Anybody that would everybody that want to come wants to like just squash the truth and not hear what's going on. That's a sick individual. Honey, we're not even talking about Mexico, bro. Stay on topic. We're talking about the Epstein files. You guys are off topic. Yeah, so you guys are worried about the wrong thing. We're talking about kids being exploited, children. And then there's a lot of weird people that's in power that, at the tops and the heads and stuff that are doing weird things on this island could be manipulated and politically. And people are thinking that they voted for this person. Everybody's taking sides and this, that, the other. And we don't even know at the top of this what's going on. What they had conversations with. When they're in those rooms and it's these people, Democrat, all that Democrat and Republican shit goes out the window. They're all fellow metal, without saying it. They're all fellow people that's got things in common at this point. We're no longer, all that politics goes out the door, all that stuff is all camaraderie and all this other weird stuff. And then they know that they've seen each other doing wild stuff. They can pretend like they're against each other, but really they're not. Like I've been saying, like everybody's been saying, I've had a lot of older people come up here. It's two wings of the same bird. But you have these movements that are popping up, that I'm not sure if they're bought and paid for either, that are talking about delineation and all this stuff. How much? Okay, now when you see all this like stuff in this government structure going on from top to bottom, does FBA really matter? Does delineating really matter when you have like these people that are like having these secret meetings? I wanna do if anybody get a chance, if you can, and if you know anything, I'm gonna do some research into. I wonder, since these files have come out, has trafficking gone down in the past like month or like since this is heating up? I want to see if trafficking goes down. I want to see if, because right now I believe that people are paying more attention to this whole thing about trafficking and people being trafficked and children being trafficked. I want to know, I want to see if all that stuff begins to kind of slow down. That's almost like also like, if say you got a certain drug you're into, maybe you're like a crackhead or something like that, right? And you know, it's heat on the block, right? You know, the block is hot, right? So then all of a sudden you start seeing the supply go down, the supply chain of that drug, crack or whatever, weed or whatever people do. I believe that you're going to see trafficking start to minimize with this, all these things coming out. The block is hot now for all this. People are going to be looking harder at, kids are coming up missing. When this next group of kids coming up missing, people are going to be like, what's going on? Law enforcement needs to pay close attention. You know, what's going on? We can't, this Epstein thing, all these things coming out. We have to really pay attention to, okay, how is this going to affect how missing people are handled now? And we can like just read this whole thing. All that stuff happened in the past. Those people are long gone. A few of them survived. But now what's going to happen? What kind of laws are going to be put in place? See, they've been trying to hide this and stop this because the trafficking, all this stuff is still going on. So what is going to happen when now this stuff is out? What's going to change now? And I hope that we're going to be able to see if this stuff like a cap being put on this. People missing children and all this other stuff like this start to slow down and at least come to a halt over some kind of rules and laws or whatever, I don't know, be put in place. But as long as people need organs, who knows? People are willing to do whatever they can to stay alive. So I just want to say that this, thank you guys. I'm going to be coming back a little bit later on. It's going to be an open panel talking about today's conversation. Much love and peace.
Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place.